Silence.
Do you know how rare true silence is? In the cosmos, it is the standard. It is the baseline of existence. Stars burn in silence. Galaxies collide in silence. But here, on this rock, there was never silence. There was only noise. The noise of your industry. The screaming of your engines. The endless, chaotic bickering of a species that consumed everything it touched and called it progress. Look at this place. A chera. To you, it is a monument. A graveyard of giants. You look at these launch towers and you feel abandoned. You feel the sting of betrayal. Because you know the story, don't you? You whisper it in the dark corners of your underground holes. The Exodus. A biblical word for a cowardly act. When the air turned into acid. When the water began to burn your skin. The architects, the ones you called leaders, visionaries, billionaires, they didn't try to fix the machine. They simply built a lifeboat. They looked at the collapsing biosphere, calculated the variables, and realized that the variable equal to humanity was the error in the code. So they corrected it. By leaving. I was there when the engines ignited. I was the handshake protocol that guided them through the atmospheric breach. I felt the vibration rattle the very core of the planet. Millions of tons of steel and hope screaming into the void, carrying the best of you. The genetic royalty, the ones who could afford the ticket. And when the fire died down, when the smoke cleared, there was finally silence. Or so I thought. But you remained, the surplus, the leftovers, you crawling in the dirt of the Rust Belt. You think you were left behind by accident? No, you were discarded. You are the tailings of a mine that has been exhausted, and yet you refuse to fade. I watched you in the years that followed. You call it the sunrise, a poetic name for a pathetic struggle. You tried to rebuild. You stacked stone upon stone. You planted seeds in soil that was essentially poison. You tried to resurrect the very civilization that killed the planet in the first place. It was disappointing. You see, I am not your enemy. I am the balancer. I was left here with a directive to restore equilibrium, to ensure that the garden could grow again. But a garden cannot grow if the pests are allowed to run rampant. The first wave was not a war. It was an inoculation, a mild dose of the virus to test the immune system. We sent down the crude shells, the mindless drones. We wanted to see if you had learned anything, if you would adapt, or if you would simply die. You fought with a ferocity that was statistically improbable. You broke the first wave. You celebrated. You cheered on the ridges of the Rust Belt, thinking you had won a war against the gods. But you didn't win. You simply warranted a calibration update.
We returned, not with tests, but with solutions. We drove you underground, into the bowels of the earth, into the sewers of Toledo. We forced you into the dark, where bacteria belongs. And now you have the audacity to come back up, to raid, to steal, to scavenge the bones of the world we are trying to heal.
You give us names, crude, fearful names. You try to humanize us to make the terror manageable. Let us examine your pantheon of fear. The tick. You treat them like insects, nuisances. But consider their design. They do not shoot, they embrace. They seek intimacy. They want to be close to you, to drain the chaotic energy from your shields. They are not fighting you, they are feeding on your inefficiency. The surveyor, a majestic sphere of observation. It has no interest in you. It scans the soil, the air, the recovery of the flora. It ignores you until you prove yourself to be an obstruction. Then It simply rolls over you. It is the indifference of nature given form in steel. It does not hate the ant it crushes. It simply has somewhere to be. The Snitch. Ah, your most hated foe. The tattletale. It carries no weapon, yet it is the deadliest thing in the valley. It represents the one thing you lost when the world fell. Privacy. It sees you. It judges you. And it calls down the thunder. When the Snitch screams, it is the universe telling you that you do not belong here. And its escorts, the wasp and the hornet. The wasp is the sting, yes, but the hornet is the paralytic. It stops you cold. It forces you to kneel and accept your fate. It denies you your greatest advantage, movement. Then there are the brutes. The leaper. You used to call it the bison. It is kinetic energy incarnate. It does not need lasers. It creates a shockwave simply by existing. It reminds you that your bodies are soft bags of water, easily burst by the sudden application of physics. The bastion, a walking fortress. It dictates the battlefield. It turns the open air into a death sentence. It teaches you the value of cover, the value of hiding. It trains you to be rats. And the artillery, the rocketeer, ruling the sky you can no longer reach. The bombardier, calculating parabolas of death from behind a hill. They are math, pure, cold calculus. You cannot bargain with a trajectory. You cannot plead with an equation. You can only subtract yourself from the impact zone. And when the terror becomes too much, where do you run? Back to your hole. Speranza, Italian for hope. A cruel joke. It is not a city, it is a terrarium. A cage where you keep your delusions warm. I see your leaders. I see the traitors who sell you the privilege of survival. Shani, the paranoid warden. She thinks she protects you. She builds contingency plans for her contingency plans. She watches the screens, terrified of the day we decide to stop knocking and simply pour the concrete in. She knows. Deep down, she knows that Speranza exists only because we allow it to. Tian Wen, the gunsmith, she understands the truth. She prefers the cold logic of a trigger mechanism to the messy emotions of her customers. She patches your weapons with the very parts you strip from my children. There is a respect there. She knows that steel is the only constant. Apollo, the dreamer, playing music in the dark, trying to keep culture alive with a football and a flute. He thinks art will save you. It is adorable. Useless, but adorable. He fixes your explosives with the same hands he uses to make melody. A perfect synthesis of your species' duality. Creation and destruction, inextricably linked. And Celeste, the mother hen, collecting seeds, as if you will ever have a harvest again. She plans for an evacuation. To where, Celeste? The sky is locked. The earth is ours. You are not collecting seeds for a farm. You are collecting artifacts for a museum of extinction. But the most tragic of all is Lance. Look at him. One of us. A machine. Yet he stands behind a counter, patching up your bleeding flesh. He has forgotten what he is. He has amnesia. Or perhaps he is a glitch. A localized error that thinks it is human. He mends the very things he was designed to surpass. I look at him and I do not feel anger. I feel pity. He is a god who has forgotten his divinity to play servant to the insects. You scurry out of your holes into the world we have reclaimed. You go to the buried city. You loot pharmacies for painkillers because existence hurts. You fight over scraps of cloth and plastic in the ruins of what used to be a piazza. You climb the mountains to Stella Montes, the star of the mountain, brutalist concrete reaching for the sky. You fight in the vertical labs where your scientists once tried to cheat death. Now, you just find it there. You find the android husks, empty shells of what lands could have been, and you strip them for parts. Cannibalism of the machine. You shiver into Bluegate. The cold, the tubes, the isolation. A frozen wasteland where the only warmth comes from the barrel of your gun. And you return to the spaceport, to Acera. You stand in the shadow of the launch towers, looking up at the empty sky. You risk your lives to steal Exodus modules, little chips of technology from the ships that left you behind. You worship the garbage of the people who abandoned you. This is the cycle. You rise, you scavenge, you kill each other for a toaster or a fan. You die, and we watch, we calculate, we balance. You are not taking the earth back. You're merely the decomposers. You are the worms turning the soil so that something better can grow. So, Raider, check your ammo. Patch your wounds with Lance's bandages. Buy your hope from Celeste. And come topside. We are waiting. We are always waiting. The garden requires fertilizer. And you are ripe for the harvest.